So I've watched the series and I have so many questions. However, I've been told under strict instructions that we can't give away any spoilers as everything's being kept under lock and key.
Nice.
So for those who aren't familiar with the comic books, what can you tell us about the show to give us a little feeler?
Locke Key is about this family. The father is murdered under mysterious circumstances, and the mom takes her 3 kids and moves to his ancestral home in Massachusetts, to this place called Key House. And Key House, it turns out, is filled with all these magical keys that have incredible properties. And the show is really about the kids in particular discovering these keys, trying to figure out what they do, and ultimately trying to figure out what exactly happened to their dad.
It's interesting, the series starts with the family moving across from one side of the country to the other after the death of their father. How do the keys help them cope kind of with that, fresh start, and also with dealing with the grief of their father?
Well, I think, moving to a new place, they're trying to figure out who they are now in this new place. And the keys are this wonderful metaphor for discovering your identity, because they allow you to change things about yourself or change your world in some way. And I think ask that fundamental question, if you had that ability to do that, would you and should you? And so I think they're learning those lessons through the discovery of these keys, in addition to being able to learn more about their father and the ways that he used the keys. And so in that way, the show is able to, work on this great metaphorical level that these keys kind of represent an ability to change your own identity.
Now, each of these magical keys have unique powers. So what was your favorite key, I guess, to work on in the adaptation and filming process?
I think one of the things that's really incredible about Locke Key is the really inventive things that are in it that we have not seen before. And for me, one of those is the Crown of Shadows key, where you put this crown on and you can control shadows and turn them into, your minions or your monsters, and so that's really a cool idea, and it works great in a comic book, but then trying to actually create shadow monsters on set and turn them into, living creatures was a really hard challenge. So it was really both a creative challenge to figure out how to tell that story, but also, like, from a production standpoint, how do we actually do that on a television schedule, budget, and make it look cool?
Mm-hmm. And what about you? What was your favorite key?
I think it would be the head key, because of the creative challenge that it presented, in that in the comic book, you stick the key in the back of your neck and it opens up your head like a lid, which works very well in the comic, but for TV that would be pretty grotesque. So in our version of the head key, a door appears, and when you walk through it, you enter your own brain. And so in the writer's room, it was really fun for us to have conversations about, well, what would Kinsey's head look like? Yeah. What would Dodge's head look like? What would Aaron Voss's head look like? Those were really fun conversations to have, using their personalities to tell that story.
Those were some of my favorite scenes, and then it made me wonder, oh my gosh, I don't even want to know what's in my head. It'd be a bit scary. Can you just quickly talk about what it was like, having the chance to actually work with, is it Joe Hill, who actually wrote the comics, and having that, that's awesome to have that resource of him while you're, on set, while you're adapting this.
I mean, it's really hard to make any television show, and the fact that we had Joe Hill's comic, where he had really thought about the mythology and had worked on it for a long time, was really helpful. He created a world that we got to go play in, and the best part of it is that he let us expand that world and do new things, come up with new keys, come up with new characters, come up with new scenes and scenarios. And he not only embraced it, he participated in that process with us. And so he was really very much not just a supporter, but also a collaborator. And so this show is something that he's really embraced, and it was really a fun part of the process.
Well, thank you for talking to HeyUGuys. I'm glad we got to jump into his mind with this whole,
Yes,
series. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching HeyUGuys.
HeyUGuys, huh?
HeyUGuys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey, you